all of us were really dumb in our predictions this playoff season in the NFL. But despite that, we still ended up with a wonderful matchup in the Super Bowl in the desert as Patrick Mahomes and his Kansas City Chiefs lead into a matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles in Jalen Hurts' led NFC Championship team. And guys, here on the Sports Cubicle, it is a yearly tradition where we make our predictions, we look at some prop bets, and we get excited for the big game happening in 1 week. Welcome into this edition of the Sports Cubicle, our Super Bowl preview edition of the Sports Cubicle with the marvelous one, Dan Marver. It's Devin Tingle. It's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado. Guys, we have made it to the big game, to this moment, and I think for once, this is one of those moments where chalk really was up to par. There's been plenty of times where a team like the Minnesota Vikings are the number 1 seed, and we know they're going to be an early exit. This is a year where we are really going to crown a heavyweight champion in the National Football League between the two best teams in the NFL. And I'm excited to get to this game. So I guess before we make our actual predictions, we'll start off with you, Paulie. What did you think when the NFC Championship game came to an end? We saw what happened with San Francisco. It seemed inevitable by the time we got to the second drive of the game that Philadelphia was heading to the Super Bowl. And then Kansas City finally exercising one demon of Joe Burrow winning a game in Arrowhead. So your thoughts when we finally got this matchup of the two number 1 seeds meeting in the Super Bowl?
Well, I wonder if the Eagles were even really challenged in their game because the 49ers just didn't really have it that day. I know there's the injury to Brock Purdy, but even at the same time, bringing in a rookie quarterback with only a handful of starts under his belt in that game was already kind of not working in their favor, going on the road. I would have thought it would have been closer than 31-7. Whereas Kansas City, yeah, you could argue that maybe that wasn't the best officiated game, and I'm not going to chalk it up to that. But at the same time, you knew that if it was going to be Bills Chiefs or Bengals Chiefs, that you were going to get a really good game. And I think it was a little bit more neutralized with Mahomes dealing with his high ankle sprain. Whereas if he was healthier, that would have been a little bit more in Kansas City's favor. But I think regardless, you got two of the best teams. I mean, they're the number ones. They're 14-3 through the regular season. Played tough competition, maybe not the toughest competition in their divisional rounds, but were able to get there. They strung together the 2 wins they needed to get to the game. So I think ultimately, when you look at the 2022 season, these are the best 2 teams, and that's ideally what you want in a Super Bowl, is the teams that were good start to finish, not the teams that were only good the last 6 weeks of the season. So I'm excited about that, but we'll see from there what we'll break it down in terms of how we see it playing out.
Dev, when you saw this matchup, the final whistles happened on Sunday night, and we saw who was crowned the NFC and AFC champions. And a year where I know here on the Sports Cubicle and in general, sports fans, we do like seeing the underdog. We do like seeing some anarchy and some chaos in the brackets. But this is a time where chalk was kind of a fun matchup. These are the 2 most healthiest teams going into this point. You don't have a banged up Bills team or a banged up Niners team. You don't have a banged up Cincinnati team. So when you saw that it was going to be Mahomes and Hurts, it was going to be the Kelsey brothers Super Bowl, that it was going to be the Andy Reid Super Bowl, your thoughts on this really fun matchup?
I must say the Kelsey's parents are going to have a really happy Super Bowl Sunday, no matter who wins or loses. That one going to be clear here. And to go back to Paul, when he's talking about that, calling against Mahomes, he's like, we're not going to dwell on this yet. He brings up the Tuck rule almost 10 years later, and still over 10 years down, still gets mad about it here. But this is definitely kind of, I don't want to say it's different.
What's your point?
I'm busting your chops because you will never let that go.
I mean, Raiders fans haven't let go of the Steelers game either, so we know that's never going to be a thing. Poor Raiders fans, always on the other end of history.
No, I'm just saying, it's like that call with Mahomes. Yeah, that might have been the right one. We'll just move on from that, though, Paul. We get it. It's not your team. But just going into this,
the same that a game was determined by a lack of a whistle in time. It's a late hit. A late hit's a late hit, but the whistle was not blown yet when the guy hit him. So I mean, you'd like to see consistency. I don't think it's as egregious as like making up a rule in order to give a team an opportunity, or having no camera angles, or not wanting to make the correct call for fear of losing your life at Three Rivers Stadium.
Okay,
I don't know how.
all right, relax. We'll get to all that stuff.
Man, Paul.
But yeah, I
railed
mean,
it.
I think there was more to it than that one game. But yeah, no, go on, Devin. You had a point you were trying to make.
Yeah, calm down, Mayor Lightfoot. Let me get my point out before you start trying to rebuttal yourself here. Or I lost track.
Whatever you want to make your point, we're ready.
I'm trying to remember my point now. But it's going to be definitely a different Super Bowl. You know, the Chiefs have been this really good team that's come in consistently good for a while here. This is their third Super Bowl they're making under Patrick Mahomes. And I mean, if Mahomes is going to be the guy now that Brady is officially retiring, it's like he's got to win this one here. And I mean, if I want to bust Paul's chops a little bit more, you know, Mercado, you said we were all wrong in our predictions. I said the Eagles were going to lose the Super Bowl. So I can at least have a shot at predicting the loser right. I'll, take that one to my grave here. But, it's just very nice, and I can barely see that from this distance. Says the man who totally went with the point that I was not making. But going back to Super Bowl, Paul Lacius, we're going to live in 2023, not 2000 and late or whatever the hell you're trying to be in here. But it's got, definitely a different, not different, good Super Bowl here. I mean, the Eagles, that team that, can very be up and down. And just keep in mind, this is the second time the Eagles have made the playoffs. Made the Super Bowl with Carson Wentz's backup starting the game. And I mean, of course, the history of two black quarterbacks finally starting this game. It's really nice. And I mean, I'm just hoping the next black quarterback to win a Super Bowl will be Justin Fields. But,
that's what I'm talking about. That's how you bring it back home. Justin Fields, QB1, him. He is him. You guys bring up some interesting points and it's something that's just hovering over the Super Bowl. It's the number one seeds. And it's Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. It's the two guys along with Josh Allen on top of the MVP candidates. And I think this matchup is fun for the NFL, for the casuals, for bettors. I think this has the intrigue of America that anybody can win this game. And we can see the dynasty continue and the baton really being passed. We will get to the Tom Brady stuff, but that idea of Patrick Mahomes winning another Super Bowl, 5 straight conference championship games, and to see where they're at right now, to win another Lombardi, it would be huge. For Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, they're the blueprint for a lot of teams, including the Chicago Bears, on what you can do if you do it right. If 100% is done correct, you can get to the big game and what it takes to build that type of team. I think there's a lot invested in the Super Bowl. I also think it's really interesting that the Chiefs are underdogs in this game. Very slight underdogs, but if you look at something like DraftKings right now, they're plus 105. Now, the over-under is 50.5, and it's a spread of 1.5 if you're going for the Chiefs. So I think there's a lot of juice if you're going to put a couple bucks on the Chiefs, simply because if we're talking X factors of this game, right? And Paulie brought this up, the high ankle sprain. You're talking about now 2 weeks before the big game where Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes can get healthy. And this is not going to be a secret of how you stop the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts has to beat you with his arm. He can. They have the receivers, but they're going to have to try to contain them. And if Chandler Jones is healthy and he's got 2 weeks to get healthy, this is a chance for the Chiefs to really capitalize on being the underdog. I'm putting a couple cents on Kansas City simply because I made this proclamation when we did our playoff preview, right? The Tom Brady effect. Until it's done, until it's over, I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes again. I'm not betting against this team. This team had who? Where's Tyreek Hill? On a totally different AFC team, and you haven't seen the difference. That's how good this dude is. He has Juju Smith out there and Kadarius Toney, guys who are shipped off from other teams who have injury problems. And keep
in mind that they left the last game with injury too.
Yes. And we haven't seen him practice. So Patrick Mahomes is that special. And, it hurts Bears fans after that interview his father had over on 670 The Score with Parkinson Spiegel, where he was called and he was told he was going to get drafted number 3 for the Chicago Bears. And, it's always fun to do that butterfly effect thing. But I think we are amongst his era. This is the era of Patrick Mahomes. And you do hope that somebody like Justin Fields and these new cats coming up like the Burrows and the Allens, and whether it's Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or Trevor Lawrence, that they're able to live up to this type of hype, that they're able to meet him in these moments. And I think that the breakdown of this game really is going to come down to the front line. The Eagles have the best arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. And the way they attack and that running game are proof of it. And that's how Kansas City's going to, if you're going to kill Kansas City, it's going to be slowly. So before we make our predictions, let's talk a little bit about what intrigues you of these matchups. I broke down a little bit of what's going into this game. I'll start off with Dev this time. Dev, you see this matchup. What is exciting about it to you? Is it the Mahomes Hurts kind of matchup? Is it the running game, the fast offense, the chess match between these two coaches on how you could slow down these high power offense? Where are you when it comes to intriguing matchups on the field?
I'm going to honestly say it's going to be the battle of the quarterbacks for me for several reasons. I'll start with the first one. It's the first time two black quarterbacks are starting off a Super Bowl. I love seeing history get made. That's why I wanted Tom Brady to win as many Super Bowls as possible, because I like to live to see history being made, especially when it's good history, because we lived through a pandemic. I don't want to live through that bad history too much. I want to see the good here. But you got two great quarterbacks coming in with Patrick Mahomes, a guy who's pretty much proven himself to be the next, GOAT of the modern, the modern era of the NFL right now, or the current era we're living in that they'll have a title for eventually. And Jalen Hurts, a guy who's, definitely good, but still kind of proving himself as he's kind of still very earlier on in his career than Mahomes is, I would say here. And these are two guys that are definitely going to it's definitely a high scoring Super Bowl here. I mean, both teams have good defenses, but they always say the good defense beats the good offense. But what about when both teams have a really good offense and a really good defense here? And I think it's just going to be pretty high scoring. I think, what was it? The Chiefs and the Rams had that one insanely high, 50 something a game. I could see this being a Super Bowl like that, where the final score is close to 100 if you had both teams' numbers together here. I think it's just we're going to see. We're going to see a high scoring Super Bowl, and as we always notice, the higher the score, the more people watch the Super Bowl here. So I mean, that's a nice little plug too. That it's going to be much more watched here. But this is going to be a very interesting Super Bowl here, because it's you have the guy who is probably going to become the quarterback everyone starts to hate in the future when he's winning all the time, and the guy who might be in his, I don't want to say this is Jalen Hurts prove it stage, but this is definitely a point in his career where he's young enough. It's if he wins this here, this could be big fat contract for many years to come.
Paulie, where are you on the field? The matchups, whether it's head to head or it's something that just the storylines going through, legacies, whether it is Jalen Hurts and what he's able to establish, slaying this dragon. Where are you when it comes to kind of these on the field stories, these matchups, something that's intriguing you for this Super Bowl matchup?
Patrick Mahomes versus the Philadelphia Eagles defense.
Yeah.
We know that they had the third most sacks all time in a season with 70 this year. We know that they're going to put a lot of pressure on Mahomes. And we know that Mahomes is compromised with the high ankle sprain, although he has a couple of weeks to rejuvenate and hopefully regain his form. We know that he depends on Travis Kelce a lot, although the numbers that I saw, it looked like tight ends didn't do particularly well against the Eagles this year, but not too terrible. And then, of course, the wide receivers that are injured, Kadarius Toney, Juju Smith-Schuster. I think I just saw that Mecole Hardman is officially ruled out or close to being officially ruled out. So Mahomes has quite the obstacles to overcome if he's going to be successful in this version of the Super Bowl. So that's going to be the biggest thing to me. I think that's going to be the most exciting, is when you have Chiefs offense versus Eagles defense on the field. I think that's going to be what I'm going to be watching the most.
So we're at this moment now where I think a lot of the NFL, a lot of viewers, a lot of people who are intrigued in the sport are going to see how can you build your teams like this, right? Not everybody can find a Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback with a lot of talent. So I think it's the copycat league more than almost any other sport in all the pros in the entire world. The NFL is such a copycat league from year to year that I don't know how you replicate and duplicate what these two teams are doing, because Paulie just brought up the numbers. You got to hit on every level of defense, especially the interior. Same thing on the offensive side. And that's what I take from these Super Bowls, as a nerd of the sport, is how are you able to take and learn from these organizations and implement them into your favorite team? And it's hard because not everybody, the Raiders and the Bears don't have a Patrick Mahomes. Neither one of these teams have arguably the best offensive line in the sport. And that really impacts where you're at and how you get to this moment. And also the war of attrition getting you to this moment. The fact that Mahomes was able to survive in Arrowhead against Cincinnati. And is it just enough time to get you to that last moment, to get you to that last game? You know, we mentioned the idea of like how you got to make sure you funnel in Jalen Hurts and you control him in the pocket. Mahomes has that X factor where the weird arm angles, the weird body angles, where even when you think you got him, the play's not over until that whistle is blown. And we saw that in this last game, but we know that any play can be had if he has the ball and the referee hasn't blown that whistle. So the Eagles also have to play that dangerous game where we can't allow ourselves to make stupid mistakes on the quarterback, but this dude is hard to take down. This dude is hard to end a play with. And I think these are the intriguing matchups that we're going to see, right? Because we haven't really talked about Dallas Goedert these playoffs on the Phillies side. He's coming back from a major injury. You talk about a freak unicorn on tight end. You know, they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell. This is a good team. This is a really good team. So I think as much as I'm hyping up Kansas City, this could be a rout. I don't think any of us have really talked about it, whether it's mainstream, national, or local media. This game has all the possibilities of being a classic, but also being an absolute butt-kicking rout by the time we're done with it. This has the chance of, by halftime, a team being down by 17 points. Now, the intriguing thing, the devil's advocate, the argument is, yeah, that team was down 17 points, but you know the game ain't over with these two teams. So that I think there's so many things that we could get excited about when it comes to this matchup. Now, I think the only more exciting than making our picks is the novelty of the Super Bowl. So before we get to the main event, where we make our final predictions on the score, the winner, and the Super Bowl MVP, let's take a look at some of these novelty predictions. And we're going to put a little bit of show credits, if you will. The one who gets the most correct of these novelty picks over at our friends at some of these betting websites will be the king of the Super Bowl, novelty king of the Super Bowl, because you have to be the champion of our predictions. And you guys know, I think for most people, the squares and the betting is the most exciting part for America. We like the game, but America enjoys all the other stuff around it. So I think it's time we get right into it, guys. What do you think? Let's get into something fun. I will start up with Paulie Dangerous, okay? Paulie, the coin toss, heads or tails?
Well, before I get into that, I'd like to make a reference that Carl Sheffers is the referee for this one. This will be the third Super Bowl he's worked. The other two are Super Bowl 49. I'm sorry, he was the alternate in 49. Last time it was in Arizona, but he actually did work Super Bowl 51, which is the only Super Bowl to go to overtime, the famous 28-3, and Super Bowl 55, which was Patrick Mahomes' loss to the Buccaneers, and he called 8 penalties for 95 yards against the Chiefs in the first half, which are both records. So I don't know how that's going to factor into this one, but I thought that was interesting that Carl Sheffers is one to be involved in history when it comes to Super Bowls. As far as the coin toss, though, I'm going to say tails.
Okay, you're going with tails. And I'm glad you brought up that thing. It's really keep your third eye open, friends, when you're looking at some of these things, who's officiating these games, what the weather is like, how this person is in February, how this person is at officiating, how the league decides who officiates these games, their grading scale. It's really interesting stuff. I'm glad you brought that up, Paulie. That's something we'll talk about next season, but you're going with tails. Devin, heads or tails?
Well, let's see. I got this quarter out of the vending machine today, so let's just put it to the test right now.
It's up.
It went all the way to the side of the room.
It went down the other side of the room.
Tails.
It is tails. There we go. Yeah. I will go with heads. All right, one time around. Paulie, you went?
Tails.
Tails, heads. All right, so I have a chance to win this one. There we go. Let's make sure we mark this down. This all-important novelty championship. All right, how about this one? Who wins the coin toss? The Eagles or the Chiefs? Devin?
Let's just leave it to the coin again. And it's heads, so I'll say Chiefs.
Chiefs. All right. Paulie?
I'm going to say Chiefs as well.
You know what? I'm going to go Eagles. Let's go with it again. I like to play, what is it? The Price is Right. On the $1, Bob.
Yeah, the $1 Price is Right. Yeah.
All right, guys. So I think we'll do one more novelty one, and then we'll get to some serious over unders and some prop bets on the actual field. What color will the Gatorade be, Paulie?
Yeah. Let's go classic orange.
Devin?
Paul took my answer, so I'll say that like yellow greenish kinds. That's the stuff I see everywhere.
I'm going to go blue. I think it's going to be the ice frost, the Arctic frost color. I think it will be blue is the Gatorade that is shown to be pouring all over the coach of the winning team of the Super Bowl. And if you're joining us over on the YouTube, the Marvelous One has joined us. It couldn't have been a Super Bowl prediction show without the Marvelous One, Dan Marver. Dan, we are making our novelty picks. We'll get you those online later. More importantly, let's get your thoughts on the big game, Eagles and the Chiefs. Hurts, Mahomes. Your thoughts on the Super Bowl? Are you excited? What has you going when it comes to this huge game coming up next Sunday?
I'm pretty excited. I mean, it's there's a big build up with the 2 weeks and all. I think that Mahomes will prevail in this game. Kansas City, I like in this game to win the Super Bowl this year, and I think that he just has a little extra motivation since he's been close, and and I think that this is his time. I think that maybe Philadelphia will be next time. You know how that works.
I'm glad you brought that up, Marvelous. Before we move on more on this conversation, we get your novelty picks. Who is the MVP this season? Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good. Yeah, that's really a good one. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So
Have you
I think the MVP, and this is why I'm leaning towards the Chiefs when it comes to maybe putting a little bit of an allowance on DraftKings, is until I'm proven wrong, until he's been slain, Patrick Mahomes is the guy. And it's the Michael Jordan effect. The only reason Michael Jordan didn't win an MVP every year is because you didn't want to vote for him every single year.
right?
And I think Mahomes is kind of going through that right now.
Uh-huh.
But it's something maybe we should just keep kind of underlining this whole conversation. There's a good matchup between two number ones, but it's also a matchup between the two favorites of the MVP conversation.
Okay, you got me convinced.
Yeah, and Marvelous, before we get to your novelty picks, let me ask you this. As a Bears fan, you're seeing these two teams. You can't have a Patrick Mahomes. You might have been able to, but you can't have him, right?
Right.
And everything needs to go right for the Eagles for them to get to this moment when it came to building their offense and the defensive line, how great that defense is, all the weapons on offense. What can you take as a Bears fan, somebody who's watched football, to integrate? What would you like to see the Bears take from them? Would it be having a vicious front four, front seven? What would you want to take from some of these teams in the Super Bowl?
A good core of wide receivers and protection on the offensive line. And that actually, in a way, I'm more concerned about the offense and the defense, because it seems like, you can have, honestly, an average defense and an outstanding offense and be a winner, in my opinion.
So, Marvelous, let's catch you up now, all right? Heads or tails, what is it going to be to start the Super Bowl?
Tails.
Who wins the coin toss, the Eagles or the Chiefs?
Eagles.
And what is the color of the Gatorade that is going to be poured at the winning coach?
Sort of a yellow.
Okay, there you go. All right, we're going to go. There we go. All right, we are all caught up here as we are doing one of our favorite shows of the year, the Super Bowl prediction show here on the Sports Cubicle. It is the Marvelous One, Dan Marver. It is Devin Tingle. It's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado. Let's get right into it now. Joe Burrow, over under 2.5 touchdowns. Paulie.
Wait, would you say Joe Burrow over
Joe Burrow over
touchdowns?
under 2.5 touchdowns.
Wait, say someone who's in the Super Bowl.
Oh, I'm Jalen Hurts.
You mean
Jalen Hurts? My man crush. Everybody knows my man crush is Joe Burrow. Continue,
Mercado's got his notes from last year.
Right, yeah. Say, are you on the right DraftKings right now? Jalen Hurts, two Super Bowls,
2.5 touchdowns thrown.
Sorry, two touchdowns. I mean, I'll say push unless you say 2.5. I'll say under.
No, yeah, 2.5 thrown touchdowns.
Oh, then under.
Devin?
I'm gonna say even.
Well, it's 2.5 though.
2.5.
Yeah, think he'll score. I definitely think he'll throw 2 though. So that count qualify as under then?
Yes.
Under,
Okay,
yeah, unless you think he can throw 3.
Yeah. All right.
I'll say under with 2.
Marvelous. Jalen Hurts, 2.5 over under on touchdowns thrown.
Over.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Same thing now. We'll start with Marvelous. Mahomes, 2.5 thrown touchdowns.
Actually, I'm going under because their running game will be better than Philadelphia's, I think.
Interesting. Dev?
I'm going to say over because everyone keeps talking about Mahomes' ankle. I think Mahomes is definitely trying to I think he's going to try and prove he's going to do what I call the Brett Favre syndrome, where it's like, I'm injured, so I'm going to try to prove to you, or I'm hurting, I should say. So I'm going to try to prove to you I'm even better than you think I am.
Paulie?
I'm going to say over kind of for the same reasons that Devin's saying, but more of he's compromised by the ankle, so he's going to have to throw. So I think 3 would do it.
So you could put me down Jalen Hurts under 2.5 thrown touchdowns, Mahomes over 2.5 thrown touchdowns. This is another fun one, I believe. Miles Sanders over under 65.5 rushing yards. Paulie?
I'll go over.
Devin?
I will also go over.
Marver?
I got to go with the guys. Over.
I'm going to go under. But we'll do this one. Miles Sanders over.
Are you doing that
under,
to be different, or do you have a reason why you're going under?
Because I believe the Eagles' run game is at its best when they're attacking on the goal line, when they're in the red zone. I think they're able to open up the offense, obviously play action and being able to kind of soften up the defense. But when they're at their most dangerous is when A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert have caught a ball at the 10-yard line, and now you have to decide between Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, and Jalen Hurts who you're going to stop. So I'm going to go under for this reason, and it's not going to be Miles Sanders. Over under 1.5 rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. That I will go over. Devin?
He's over. Okay.
The rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts.
Over 1.5.
Definitely under.
Okay. Paulie?
I'm also going to say under.
Marvelous.
Under as well.
Okay.
And I saw my shadow today, by the way. That's what took me so long. All the fans were still gathered around.
All right. And in our last one, we'll do a Travis Kelce one. Okay. Travis Kelce over under 1.5 touchdown catches. I will start with Marvelous. Marver, Travis Kelce over under 1.5 touchdown catches.
Over.
Ooh, over. Paulie?
Under.
Devin?
I'm going to say over, and I'm going to say he's going to have one relative playing in the Super Bowl, so I can be like Paul and just try to take as much as I can to claim a win here.
Every inch counts. I'm going to go with over too. So let's get to it. It's time to put the feet to the fire. We've made our fun picks. We know what color the Gatorade is going to be, but now it's time to predict, to make sure that people listening to the Sports Cubicle are able to win their office polls, are able to win some money on our favorite apps. It is time to make our predictions for the Super Bowl between the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs and the NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. We will start with Paulie Dangerous. Who wins between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles next Sunday in the Super Bowl?
This was hard. This is a hard prediction to make, but I got Eagles 31-27. Despite throwing an interception, Jalen Hurts gets MVP because he gets a rushing touchdown, 2 passing touchdowns, 375 to 400 all-purpose yards.
We're going to go with Devin. Devin, Eagles, Chiefs. Who do you got? What's the score? Your MVP.
Well, let's be real here. I kind of started this whole playoff saying the Eagles are going to lose the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to stick to that, although if they'd win, I'd be pretty happy about that one here. But I'm definitely going to say Chiefs over Eagles on this one. I'm going to say 42-37. I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. And I'm going to think Mahomes is going to get MVP just hands down. Like there's going to be no contest.
Marvelous. We have an Eagles. We have a Chiefs. Which way are you leaning in the big game?
Chiefs, I'm leaning a little lower score, 28-17. And this way, Philadelphia will have both lost the Super Bowl and the World Series in the same season.
Tough break, right? Because we all just feel so bad for all those Philadelphia fans around the world.
Every New York dream.
Yeah.
Well, that brotherly love.
So this is a fun matchup. I mean, we've talked about it on so many different directions, and my only hope is that both teams have fun. My only hope is that it is a fun matchup, that is a good game, that there are little to no mistakes, that the referees aren't involved in it, which they will be, and that the two best teams are out there showing why they were the best two teams for pillar to post. It's tough. I know I'm not going to go against Mahomes. I don't want to go against Mahomes. So I'm not going to go against Mahomes. 28-23, Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is your MVP. Guys, I can't believe we've made it to Super Bowl Sunday. Every week, we're going to break down the Super Bowl and everything, and we got a lot to get to still. We got to talk about Bobby Hall. We got to talk about Tom Brady. But it was so much fun every Sunday with Marvelous, breaking down Bears games. It was so much fun talking with Devin, the rare times we were able to, when he was able to get out of the crazy studios of CPT with Paulie and watch some of these games and break them down with me. And it was fun every Monday and Friday arguing with Paulie about the National Football League, whether it was on mic or off mic. It is our favorite season here on the Sports Cubicle. We're able to talk to the community and kind of just show the most meatball fan that we can be in the season. So we're going to post all the predictions. We're going to have our post-game show, but I've enjoyed so much this NFL season, and I've enjoyed doing it with my boys here on the Sports Cubicle. But we want to know your predictions for the big game between the Chiefs and the Eagles. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. Guys, we have a minute left. Final thoughts on Super Bowl, Eagles, Chiefs. Paulie.
I think it's going to be really exciting. I think no matter what, we should have a good game. I mean, they're the two number ones, two great quarterbacks like we talked about. I'm hoping that the score stays within 10 points, and I hope it's exciting all the way to the end.
Devin.
We got, like Paul said, we got the two number one seeds. We got the best teams on paper and in the game playing here. And I think it's going to be real high scoring. I think it's going to be real entertaining, and maybe this will be the Super Bowl that, starts bringing in some of those younger fans.
Marvelous. How excited. Final thoughts. Super Bowl.
I'm excited. Well, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in 69 and 2019. So I'm saying they're not going to have to wait 50 years for the next one. I'm saying this is their time now. So, they've been in 5, and this will be their 3rd win.
Make sure you guys are all being safe and sound. Don't drink and drive. Eat a bunch of food. Watch the game. Enjoy it with friends. And enjoy the fact that we are able to watch a fairly normal Super Bowl, all things being equal. Think about how far we've come from that DeMar Hamlin thing. Again, that's a whole different conversation about our attitudes as football fans. But I'm glad that in 7 short days from this Sunday, we get to see an awesome Super Bowl matchup. For the marvelous one, Dan Marver, for Devin Tingle, for Paul Chivari, I'm Mike Mercado. Enjoy the Super Bowl.